in CD time. So thank you everybody for being here. And this coffee hour session is being organized by ARO Education Committee. And this session is going to be about to write an effective ARO abstract. And in the second segment, we will cover how to make a good travel award application. And today we have two speakers, Dr. Brandon Cox and Dr. Catalina Willis Ortega. Thank you for joining us today. So first of all, I will introduce our today's speakers. Dr. Brandon Cox received a PhD in pharmacology from Georgetown University, followed by postdoctoral training at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, where she changed fields to study the auditory system. In 2013, Dr. Cox joined Southern Illinois University School of Medicine in Springfield, Illinois, as an assistant professor, and has since been promoted to professor with tenure now. She is the program chair for ARO and the director of the multidisciplinary biomedical and biological science graduate program. The Cox Lab investigates hair cell regeneration in the cochlear and vestibular organs, as well as mechanisms that regulate hair cell survival during aging, regeneration, and in stressed hair cells after noise exposure. Dr. Cox has received grants funding from NIH and Department of Defense. Thank you, Dr. Cox, for joining today for this session.
Sure, I'm happy to be here and share some insight. So I thought I would first just kind of go over the process of what's happening after you submit an abstract. So it's very important when you are submitting your abstract that you do two things very carefully. One is selecting the category, the submission category that's appropriate for your abstract. This will drive your abstract to be assigned to one of our program committee members who has expertise in that subject matter. So we have 33 different topic areas, things like development, immunology, hearing loss, midbrain, or auditory cortex, things like that. And so there is an other category if nothing fits, but we were really trying to avoid using that because it ends up being a mixed bag and not a lot of people go to those sessions. So try to pick the most appropriate topic. And again, we have a new topic this year. Immunology was a new topic that we added. There seemed to be a drive over the past few years of looking at macrophages and effects of the immune system in the context of damage or gene therapy and that kind of thing. A couple of years ago, we added gene therapy as its own topic. And then the second thing that's most important when you're submitting your abstract is the selection of either poster only or poster or podium. So there's no first class, second class abstracts. They're just totally different types of presentations. So if you give a podium, you get some public speaking skills, you get a broader audience for people to see who you are and see how you present, and perhaps your data would be seen by someone who's not directly in your field, but someone learning about your field. But there's really only time for one, maybe two questions. You don't get a lot of interaction unless someone comes up to you after your talk. In contrast, for a poster, you're probably going to have a more limited audience of how many people come to see you, but there's a lot more time for networking and there's a lot more time for questions. And of course, the poster's up for 24 hours and it's also up in the e-gallery electronically for much longer. So there's just different pros and cons for a poster presentation or a podium presentation. And think about that when you're submitting. If you are open and you want to be considered for podium, please, please, please choose that poster or podium selection. Okay, so once you submit your abstracts, after the deadline, the committee is going to review all the abstracts. So we have 19 committee members on program, and everyone is assigned one or two topic areas that they have expertise in. They're really doing research actively in that area. And so they're going to go through the abstracts in their topic area, say aging, and look for high quality, exciting abstracts that would make good podiums. So we need to put together a series of talks for a 2-hour podium session. And this year, we're also going to be introducing a mini podium of 1-hour session and 4 talks, so that in some cases, topic areas that have a smaller abstract pool could be considered for a podium, and we have more diversity in our scientific content. So we're going to add that this year. So after the program committee selects which abstracts they think would make good for a podium, then they're going to make those decisions, and the rest will be assigned to posters. I missed one step there, but I think I highlighted in the beginning. The very first thing the program committee member is going to do is look at all their abstracts that they're assigned and ensure they're in the right topic area. So there will be a chance that some abstracts get moved to a different topic area if the program committee member and myself as program chair thinks they were put in the wrong place. It would really help us if you do a good job of selecting your categories when you submit, and then this recategorization step can be minimal, but that is one step that we asked our committee to do. All right, so being selected for a podium is going to vary depending on who the program committee member is. Some program committee members use different ideas of how they do this. We want it to be diverse in career status. We want to promote our young trainees and our young investigators to have a chance to give a talk. We want it to be diverse in geographic location of where the lab is. We don't want a podium where everybody from Harvard giving all the talks. That's not good. And of course, we want to have diversity in other aspects of gender and ethnicity and all of those things. We do the best we can with what we're given, but you know, there's limitations as well to be as diverse as possible. Now I want to talk a few minutes about how to write a good abstract. And then I'm happy to take some questions. So abstracts are very limited, 400 words. It's sometimes harder to write something in a short, limited paragraph than it is when you have multiple pages. But the idea is you want to tell your story. You want to start with, what is the question? Why is it important? Why should anyone care? And then what are you doing? And what are your conclusions? And we fully expect most, if not all, the abstracts to be pilot data. Preliminary results suggest XYZ. What you submit in your abstract could very likely change when you come to present in February, and that's fine. We prefer that you do not change your title, but you can absolutely change the content of your abstract and what you're including and what your final conclusions are, because you may have a small sample size now, and once you've expanded that, your conclusions might have shifted, and that's okay. The other thing is you want to use very clear language. Remember, there are many people who are not experts in the very niche field that you're working on that might be interested in your abstract and in your presentation. So avoid abbreviations unless they're very common abbreviations. You avoid jargon, you know, make sure you're using plain language or explaining what you mean, because again, someone who's reading your abstract may not fully understand that type of language. And it's always, always a great idea for anything that you write ever to get a second opinion. So have somebody else read it. It can be a peer, it can be your mentor, it could be someone who's even not in your field, to just see if they have questions. I think that's important to do as well. And then when you're thinking about your title, you want to be very specific, right? So if you write a title, and I'm just going to give an example from my world of regeneration, the role of SOX2 in hair cell regeneration. That's really kind of vague, right? It would be much better if we could say something like, SOX2 deletion prevents hair cell regeneration from occurring, or something like that, where you really give the conclusion of what the gene is doing, or much more impactful than just the role of or investigation of. I understand in some cases that's not possible because you're still having small sample sizes and you're still in the middle of your study, but the more specific you can be in the title, the more likely you're going to have a larger audience coming to your presentations, because most people attending ARO are making decisions of what to see based on the title. So those are the things that I wanted to mention today, but I'm very happy to answer any questions if there are.
Please submit questions in the chat box.
All right, I see there's a question here from Catalina. If my lab wants to show a poster in the same session and day as the collaborator's poster, can this be requested and how? Yes, this can be requested by emailing me. There is no official way to do this in the submission system, but we can accommodate posters, not podium talks, but posters being presented on the same day in that manner. So just send me an email with the title of your abstract and the first author, and we'll make it happen. Question about titles. Oh, can your title be a question? Yes, it's fine for your title to be a question. The more specific, the better. What is the role of X gene? Not so specific, not a great idea, but does X gene required for something? Does X gene drive maturation of synapses or something like that? That would be okay. Question from Meredith. What are the options if we want to give a talk? We have pilot data that shows trends, but may not have statistical significance due to small sample size. So first of all, if you want to give a talk, you select poster or podium, and then you want to make your abstract exciting and impactful. So the importance of the question is just as relevant in being selected for a podium as the final conclusion of the data. So, you know, driving, why is this important? What are you doing? What is your technique or your methodology that's going to be answering that question? And then what is your pilot data showing so far? I think that's fine. I don't think abstracts are not selected for podiums because it's a small sample size. I don't think that's what people are using. Again, committee members might use different ideas of how they're selecting, but in many cases, we're looking to see, did this person present last year? Has this data been published and been out for 6 months already? We don't want to see talks on things that have already been published and I can just read the paper, right? It's much more exciting to see unpublished data. Not everyone on the committee uses those same kind of ideas of how they select, but these are the general kind of things that committee members may think about when they're selecting. What's exciting? What's novel? What's a really important question for the field that people want to learn about? Those kinds of things. Kathy asked, I think after selecting poster and podium during abstract submission, you can only be selected for either poster or podium. Is there any case in which you can do both? Well, that's hard because we have limited space. It's something that we, as program, could consider. I would need to talk to the Parthenon management group about numbers of poster boards and limitations to that. I don't believe we can offer it to everyone, but there might be cases when we could do this, but I need to investigate further before we
in the guideline, it says if the presenter is selected to present a podium presentation, no poster presentation is allowed.
I understand that's how we've always done it in the past, but could we consider changing that in some cases or changing that for SPARO members? It's something we would need to investigate further. It's not something that I can offer right now. But I will make a note and we'll talk about it in the committee. Sorry, I'll talk about it with the Parthenon membership with the incoming program chair as well. All right. So Catalina asked, do we need to divide the abstract into the sections, introduction, methods, results, and conclusions? I believe that's what is in the submission system. So I think when you go to submit your abstract, there's a box for each of those 4 sections. So you've got to put text in those boxes. The total word limit is 400. It's not a word limit per section. Megan asked, could you give some examples of rejected poster abstracts? No abstracts are rejected unless they completely have nothing to do with any topic area relevant to ARO, which very, very rarely, if ever, happens. Pretty much all, I mean, I can't remember a time that I've been involved in program that an abstract has been rejected for a poster. It's either assigned for podium or it's assigned to poster. All right.
There is another question from Andrew.
Yep. Andrew says a new student in my lab is gaining momentum on their research, but they may only have preliminary results by submission deadline. We anticipate they will have more significance in February. Are they still eligible to submit a poster? Yes, absolutely. You can absolutely submit an abstract with pilot data with very little small sample size. I've even seen abstracts where people present an idea and they don't even have any data at all yet. The abstract is really just what is the question and what is my plan to address it, with the hope and the wish that they get the data by February. I have seen that before. This is a very friendly audience at ARO. Getting your ideas out there and getting feedback is fine. That's totally fine. Is it allowed to submit multiple abstracts on different topics? Yes, I think you can have more than one abstract submission, but you might need to have a different person submit the abstract for you. Rhianna, do you know the answer to this question, if they can submit more than one abstract under their name?
Let me see if I can find out for sure real quick, and I'll be right back with you.
I know in the past I've submitted I have presented more than one poster at ARO, but someone else submitted one of the abstracts and then decided they didn't want to present the poster, and so I ended up presenting. So that's why I had two, but I need to clarify whether or not you can submit two abstracts in your own name, or if it has to be another person. What are some common writing bad habits you've seen in submitted abstracts? Passive voice. So anything to be, will be is not good in science writing. You want to use active voice. We observed X. We investigated Y. This gene does X. You want to use active voice. You want to be very clear and very concise. So if the sentences are very long and complex, and it just is hard to read and hard to follow. So shorter sentences, very direct language, active voice, and again, avoiding those abbreviations unless they're very, very common. Think about who your audience is, right? These are other people in the auditory vestibular field. They're other scientists, but they may not know your specific minutiae details of psychoacoustics or your specific details of optogenetic studying of the auditory cortex. So you need to write the language in a way that someone who is an auditory researcher could still understand it if they're not doing the exact same type of specific research you're doing. And then, of course, being too vague. If the abstract is very generic and very vague, and there's not a lot of detail of like what you're specifically doing, that would be an example of a poor abstract that wouldn't be selected for a podium.
It was very insightful. Thank you, Dr. Cox. And
sure.
I have one question regarding people who have just preliminary data, how to write conclusion, because they didn't have like any statistical significance or analyze the data because of smaller n values.
Right, so you don't have to have solid conclusions. You can say in an abstract, pilot data suggests X conclusion, or our small sample size has prevented us from discriminating between X and Y conclusion. Something like that. You can say studies are ongoing. We hope to, expand upon ABC, those kinds of things. That's okay. And it's perfectly fine if you say preliminary results suggest one thing and then your poster is a little bit different. You just own it, right? So someone comes up and says, hey, I thought the abstract was a little different. Well, yeah. When we changed the sample size, things changed a little bit. I think all of us in science have experienced that, and it's fine. It's perfectly fine.
And would you like to emphasize and shed light on poster blitz presentation? This is just 3 minutes presentation and how people who are writing abstract, what could they consider to get their poster, to get their abstracts selected for poster blitz competition, basically?
I don't understand the question. All the abstracts that are not selected for podium will be chosen for posters.
I'm asking for poster blitz competition.
Oh, poster blitz.
Yeah, that's
oh,
3
I'm
minutes.
sorry. Poster blitz.
Yeah.
I am not involved in the poster blitz selection process.
Mhm.
So I do not know the criteria that they use to select those. The poster blitz is organized by the SPARA members who are on the program committee. So I believe they do the selection. But I don't know what criteria they use.
All right. Rihanna, do you want to add something about poster blitz?
I was going to say, let me see if I can work on getting that info as well while we're on here, and I will follow up.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll hang out for the rest of the hour in case other questions come up at the end.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Cox. And now we are switching gear to travel award application. And we have today Dr. Cataviles Ortega. Dr. Cataviles Ortega is an assistant professor in the Department of Physiology at the University of Kentucky. Her laboratory studies molecular machinery involved in the mechanotransduction dependent remodeling of stereocilia cytoskeleton and the protection against noise-induced hearing loss mediated by TRPA1 channels. Dr. Viles Ortega joined the ARO Travel Awards Committee in March of 2020 and is currently the chair of committee since March 2023. Dr. Kata, over to you.
Oh, okay. It took me a while to unmute. Well, thank you for the invitation. And I'm sorry, I'm recovering from a respiratory virus, so I think my voice is a little raspy. But I hope you can understand me. So I'll start with first the materials that you have to submit when you're applying for a travel award. You do that at the same time you submit your abstract, and then you select, yes, I want to apply for a travel award or not. So you say yes, that you want to apply for a travel award. You need to also include a CV, an updated CV. You need to include a personal statement. We expect about a page. And you need to include short 2 to 3 sentence summary from your mentor about the significance of your research, of your work. The part about the mentor is new this year and kind of goes along lines of the abstract. So in the Travel Award Committee, we have people from different fields, but we don't assign the Travel Award packages to members that are only working in a specific subfield. We all get to review abstracts from all fields at ARO. So it's very important that your abstract is written with that in mind too for the Travel Award. Most of the people reviewing your package probably won't be an expert in what you're doing. So the abstract needs to be very clear about the goal of the project, the significance, why is this work important? And it cannot just be so detailed that only your lab mates can understand it or your mentor. So keep that in mind. People reviewing your abstract for the travel award might not be experts, and they still need to capture that what you did is important or has the potential of being important. It's still preliminary. So keep that in mind for the abstract. Then all the materials get submitted. And then at the end, I'll talk about the things that we look for or things that sync applications. But once they get submitted, your package will go to 3 members in the Travel Awards Committee, and they all will review all materials and give it a score in each style, from 1 being the best, 9 being the worst. And we have a fixed amount of money for travel awards. So depending on the amount of applicants each year, the pay line will be between 25 to 35%. So your goal is to be in that top 25, 30, 35% to get a travel award. In cases where we have ties for top scores or ties at the pay line, then the abstracts get sent to additional people for more reviews to break those ties. So it's a very busy time for our committee right after the closing of the abstract submission, because we want to make those decisions early on, at least 2 months before the ARO happens, so people have enough time to buy their tickets and taking into consideration whether or not they got the travel award for the travel arrangements. So what are we looking for in the applications? Well, first, an abstract that we can understand, that we can read, and then we can get an idea, why is this work important and what was your contribution to that field and what you did. Second, a CV that tells you about you, your experience, where you are now, where you were before. So a very organized CV. And then a personal statement and the summary from the mentor. We want all these documents to be linked to each other. So your CV should be updated, shouldn't have, so one common mistake that I might get is that the CV is from last year and you're applying in the postdoc category and the CV maybe was done when you were still a grad student about to graduate. So we have no information in your CV about where you are as a postdoc. So it just doesn't match what you're trying to apply for, what your CV is telling us. And also a very missed opportunity is the personal statement. People either don't write one. So if you don't give us a complete package application, then we cannot judge your travel award application and you won't receive one. Or they just write a sentence, but we're looking for a page that will help us understand why you have maybe gaps in your CV, maybe why you had low productivity in the past few years. Also tell us why you want to come to ARO. Why is this travel award important? Will it be the decision of whether or not you can attend? Is this a very crucial part in your career where attending ARO means you're about to go in the job market and you want to schedule interviews? Or is it something about your project where you're stuck in one particular technique where you need to find a collaborator? So this is your opportunity to go to ARO and find somebody that can help you with this one technique you need to do, or with this part of data you don't understand. So try to tie all of them. Try to tie your abstract to your CV, to your personal statement, and tell us a cohesive story. And those are the applications that will make it to the top. When we see the need, the intent of getting a travel award, how is this going to help you in your career, help you in your research, in your lab? So all of those together. So applications that will go at the very bottom are usually the ones that are not eligible. For example, you can only apply for a travel award once in each career stage. So if you receive a travel award as a student, you have to wait until you're a postdoc to apply again. So those that are not eligible will not, or if you are faculty now, you cannot apply for a travel award. We get a few of those every year. So those will definitely go at the bottom of the list. Then we get the applications that are incomplete. You forgot to submit a CV, or your CV is just not up to date, or your personal statement is 2 sentences. It just doesn't tell us the information that we're looking for. And then in the middle of the pack, the ones that were complete applications but didn't score at the top are the ones where we couldn't really understand the abstract. It's written, but in a language that is too hard to really get why is this research important to members outside of your subfield. Personal statements that are very generic, where you just say, you love science, you want to go to ARO because it's the biggest meeting in the field and you want to network. We all want to network, but tell us a little bit more. So don't be just too generic that you could just change the name and that same personal statement works for everybody. That's not going to cut it. To really take that page to tell us about you, your research, and why it's important to go to this meeting, why you need this award. So the ones that score at the top are those. They might not have a complete research project, right, with lots of significance. Maybe still preliminary, but they're still able to tell us why this research is important, even though still preliminary, could have a big impact, and why going to this meeting will help take this project to the next step, and why this travel award is so important for your career, even if you're just starting. So we just look for that complete cohesive package between the 3 kind of parts of the application. And now new this year is that just little sentence from your mentor to help us with significance. Because also we want to make sure your mentor knows you're applying for the award, and to hear in their words why this research is so impactful in the field. Okay, I don't know if there's any questions by now. Oh, you're muted.
I don't see any question in the chat box, but I have a question regarding, can people who have already made their travel award application, can they make changes until the deadline? Deadline is September 10th, as Dr. Cox mentioned here, and for the travel award specifically, but for the abstract submission is September 23rd.
Yes, so if you just submitted an abstract, you have more time. But if you want to travel award, like I mentioned, we want to make decisions early enough so people can use that information when they're making the travel arrangements. So we have a different deadline. But I think once you submit the documents, you can go back and edit and replace and change until the deadline, right, Rhiannon?
Yeah, you should, whenever you go to the conference website, you'll go to log in. You should see something to go to your submission dashboard, and you scroll all the way down, you can see all your submissions, and it should be like the title, or you'll see your submission, it should be hyperlinked, and it will open it back up and you can edit it. And if anybody ever has any issues with that, questions about, anything, you can always email us at headquarters@ARO.org, and we'll always help you out, get it answered as soon as we can. Just a little plug there.
And I just want to clarify that the abstract is part of your travel award submission. So if you want a travel award, your abstract has to be submitted by September 10th, along with the other travel award pieces. If you don't want a travel award, you can wait until September 23rd, but it's not like the abstract can be added later. So once the September 10th deadline's gone, you're no longer eligible for a travel award if you did not put your abstract in before that deadline. So this is something new we're doing this year because there was a big request to have more time for abstract submission. But to try to accommodate the heavy workload that Catalina and her group have to do, we made these two separate deadlines. So I just wanted to clarify that piece because it's something different we're trying for the first time.
Thank you, Dr. Cox.
That's true.
I see
a question.
Okay.
In the chat. It's asking about that significant statement from the mentor. Who submits that and how do we submit it? And Rhiannon, correct me if we're wrong, but I think we need a page, PDF that the mentor will give you, sign in the letterhead that the applicant will then submit as part of the application, right?
Correct. It's a PDF attachment.
There is in the application travel award application guideline, applicants must write a 250-word minimum or 500-word maximum rational statement. Is it different from the personal statement? And
it is the personal statement. Yeah,
okay.
We try to put that minimum to encourage people not just to give us the 1 sentence, 2 sentence personal statement that was just not going to cut it. But it's about a page that we expect.
Do we have any other question?
Something that's new this year is that one limit of travel award per category. We didn't have that limitation before, so people could apply every year. Now we have not only they can only apply once per category, so you can apply as a grad student and then you have to wait until you become a postdoc to apply again, or a medical student and has to wait until they become a resident to apply again. But there's also a 1-year wait. So if you apply your last year of grad school, you cannot apply the first year of your postdoc because there will be back-to-back travel awards. We're making a 1-year wait period before you can apply again. And also new this year is that undergrads can apply. We have a lot of undergrad students attending ARO, but they were not eligible to apply for travel awards before. So this year they can. So that's all, but the same requirements in terms of paperwork required for all of them. And
in terms of review, do they get some relaxation because they are new to the field? Or?
Since this is the first year, we'll see how many applications we get. And we'll see whether the undergrad students will match just like grad students, because we had some in the past that have attended and they have amazing amount of data and work just like a grad student. But I suspect that we'll have to compare undergrad students to undergrad students, separate them for grad students, because they probably have more preliminary data. Now that we're opening for undergrad students, we might get a lot more applications. We've had a few in the past of undergrads applying under the grad student category because they were competitive enough. They have grad student level data. But now that we open for undergrad students, I expect to see a lot more of the preliminary type of abstracts. So maybe we'll just have to just separate those during the judging.
We have a question regarding if a graduate student applies and does not receive a travel award 1 year, can they apply for a travel award again the following
Absolutely. Yeah, you can apply it every year until you get it. It's just once you get it, you have to either wait for a year or more until you're in the next category.
There is one more question from Kathy. She says, my understanding from past year is that for trainees who submitted an abstract for a symposium, they are not eligible to apply for travel award. Is this
that is not, yeah, that's not the case. You can apply for a podium or poster and still apply for the travel award. There's no actually any conflict with that.
She's actually talking about symposium. So symposium is a totally different process where they don't submit abstracts in this system. The symposium proposal period has already ended. That was something we did in May and June.
June, yeah.
Okay, so yes. So if you're submitting your package to like a young investigator symposium or a special topic symposium at the beginning of the year, then no, you're not eligible to apply for a travel award with those.
We got something from our Sparrow chair. He says, to answer the previous question about the post-published Sparrow program committee representatives are given criteria when reviewing their abstracts. We mostly look for clarity, but it helps when applicants were involved in the concept design and data collection or analysis for their project. And we have another question. Are undergraduates allowed to apply? And
yes.
the answer.
Yeah, new this year, undergrads are absolutely welcome to apply. And we have a feeling we'll get a lot of applications too in that pool. And something I forgot to mention is that the travel award, again, this year, just like last year, will be $500 for US and Canadian residents and $750 for the rest.
And I have a question regarding when do they hear about the decision on their travel award application?
We try to do it at least 2 months before ARO meeting. So I think we have a deadline in November where the committee is supposed to have all the results ready so we can send it to Parthenon and they can start contacting the recipients.
Yeah, I know we got a little behind last year with reviews and getting notifications out, but we hope to get them out much earlier this year so our members can start making plans.
Yeah, it's just last year we always get about 300 applications and then each application gets reviewed by 3 members. So it's 900 reviews. Plus there's always those tiebreakers that we need. So it's almost 1,000 reviews. So it's a lot of work for the committee. That's why, yeah, we're hoping they're starting early this year. And then we have a system now in place for all those tiebreakers. That should be a little bit faster. But yeah, it always takes us about 2 months to get all that done.
All right. We have another question. What should be the length of the mentor's statement? I think they're talking about significance statement.
2 sentences to 3 sentences max, so 1 little paragraph. So it shouldn't be too much work on the mentors, just very short paragraph. Also forgot to mention, so travel awards are $500 and $750 depending on where you're located, but the top candidates, the top applicants in each category, so we have 4 categories right now. Grad students and undergrads at 1 category this year. We're hoping to make it to separate next year. Then we have postdocs, we have med students, residents, and then we have audiologists. And the top applicant in each one will get the Henderson Award, which is it $1,500, Rhiannon, right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other question from audience?
I just want to add one quick thing. So part of the program committee role is once a podium is accepted for the meeting, they have to identify moderators. And we really like to have a junior trainee moderator paired with a more senior trainee. So my idea this year is to work with Sparrow to get a list of Sparrow members who would like to be a moderator. with their area of expertise. And so I'm working to gather that information here over the next few months. So if any of you or if you want to talk to your colleagues are interested in being a moderator, it'd be helpful to let the Sparrow chair know. And like I said, we're going to generate this list so that the program committee has a curated list of names to work with. And it's not just who you know and who you interact with that ends up being a selected for monitor role.
That's good to know, and I'm sure many people will be interested to do the moderation job.
Yes, we always struggle. We have a really hard time finding moderators, and I think part of it is we just don't know who, the committee person who's doing it doesn't know who to ask, or they have a limited, you know, set of techniques of how they figure things out. So we wanted to try to improve that this year. We have a couple other ideas as well, but the information from Sparrow is going to be really helpful, and I'll be reaching out, George, to curate that here in the near future.
Yeah, a few more questions came in about how grad students and undergrads are going to be evaluated since they're in the same category this year. In previous years, we had a few undergrads applying, but like I mentioned, the research in the abstract was like at the same level as grad students. So lots of high quality data, lots of years of experience in a lab. So they were judged together with grad students. Now, since we have open officially for undergrads, I expect to see a lot more preliminary data, just very early stages of research. So I think they will need to be judged separately, but we'll wait and see how many applications we get before we can make those decisions. And then who can we contact to inquire about which category I belong for the travel award? Both ENT resident and PhD students, so it's a little more complicated situation. Feel free to email me. I think anybody can search me and I can help you sort that out, because we do get a few applications that people that apply to the wrong category and then we have to move them, so that delays our review process a little bit until we identify those and move them to the right category for their evaluation. So if you have any questions, you can contact me or Parthenon to kind of sort those applicants that might be in multiple categories. I will say in this case in particular, because you are both an ENT resident and PhD student, I will go with the ENT, like the medical resident category.
Is there fixed number of awards, travel awards under different categories, or it's like combined total, these many awards will be given and then it gets divided?
It's all the same pay line percent wise. So the last year was the top 25, I think, percent in each category. Previous year was somewhere 33, I think, percent in each category. So grad student category is the largest. So you're competing with a lot more people in the grad student category to get to the top 33. But for all the categories, it's the same. You have to be in that top block of applications.
Okay. All right. We have another question. Do the new eligibility requirements apply for past awardees? So if I got travel award last year before the new policy, I should not apply this year.
Yes, if you got an award last year, you're not eligible this year. And that the application process has those questions at the very beginning. Did you receive a travel award before in the same category? Yes or no. Last year, yes or no. And it will kind of inform you whether you're eligible or not to apply. So yeah, if you receive a travel award last year, unfortunately, you're not eligible this year. You can apply next year if you're in a different category now. A different stage, not category, a different stage in your career.
All right, thank you so much. I hope we don't have any other question from the audience so far. Dr. Cox and Dr. Keta, do you have any other last minute thoughts about or recommendations about like how to get your travel award application become more effective and even for the...
I'll just second what Dr. Cox said. Have people read your application materials, and it doesn't have to be your lab mate that understands everything you're doing. It could be your parents. can be just a friend, somebody outside of your field, just to see if things make sense. Can they understand anything in what you're saying? How is it written? Little things like typos you don't want in the application, right? So you want to at least minimize those. But have people read it and give you feedback. I think it's a good advice.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when you're writing, you want to use language that anyone that would attend ARO could understand what you're doing and why they should care about it. Because as Catalina said, there's people in different fields reading your abstract for the travel grant. And even within these categories for selection and poster and podium, some of those categories can actually be quite broad and have subfields. And so you just, if you're not able to clearly explain what you're doing, it's not going to be appreciated and not going to get selected for these things that you want to be chosen for.
And one more thing, take advantage of that personal statement or that significant statement. Because we don't want a generic one. Like we get too many of those. Really use that to tell us about you and explain any limitations you've had in your research or your career, or you just recently switched fields. Why do you switch fields? Just use that to tell us about you. So we get a little more information that's typically not covered in your CV. So really take advantage of that page.
I see a question about an early trainee moderator. How much experience are you looking for? So I'm just going to be asking for a list of names of trainees who are interested in moderating with their area of expertise so we can match up to the podium sessions. There's no application process. There's no CV. We're not at the level of competition where you have to be applying and selected. At this point, we're just looking at a pool of people. We're looking for a pool of people who are interested to help our program committee members create their moderators and to be more inclusive of people in many different labs that may not have some kind of connection with people who are on the program committee.
And for that, they can reach out to the program chair, means you or and the.
Please reach out to the chair of Sparrow.
Okay.
I believe George Ordway is the chair of Sparrow. Is that accurate?
Yes, yeah, he's.
Yeah. So please reach out to George. I'm going to be emailing him later today to build this up more. I had talked with Kristen and Parthenon about this a few months ago, but it sounds like it hasn't gotten translated to your group yet, or maybe it was just a side conversation. So I'll reach out to you directly today, George, with what we're looking for and kind of the time period, so you can be reaching out to your members. But anyone here now who's listening, if you want to moderate, send your name, your email, and the area of research that you work in to George, because that's all I need.
Yeah,
and he
fantastic.
just put his email in the chat. So there we go.
Yeah, this sounds like a great idea. And as soon as people want to reach out to me, I will certainly welcome it. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for your help.
There is question about how soon would you like trainees to reach out to George?
So abstracts close September 23rd, and then there's a review period where we're making those decisions about posters and podiums, and then there's a window where I take all the podiums that were being nominated and figure out what can actually fit in our program because we had limited number of slots. And then after that, when we have the accepted podiums that are definitely going to be presented in the meeting, that's when we create the moderators. So it'll be more like late November timeframe that we're creating moderators. So we have time to curate this list. So let's just make up a date, November 1st. Send your email by November 1st to George.
You got the deadline now.
I'll put my email too in the chat box if anybody has
Yeah,
questions
that would be
about travel
great.
awards.
I'll do the same.
I think we have covered most of the things. And thank you, Dr. Cox, for being here, and Dr. Catavillas-Ortega for being here and sharing your insightful thoughts on how to write a good abstract and how to make your travel award application stand out, basically. And we talked about different categories and how to apply for travel award, as well as how to submit your abstract. It was very informative. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.